The United States Navy has not pushed an amphibious assault ship into the Persian Gulf during an active shooting war with a regional power since 1988. Right now, it is sending two of them. USS Boxer, a 41,000-ton Wasp-class amphibious assault ship, left San Diego 3 days ago, ahead of schedule, carrying 2,500 Marines of the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit. She is the second big-deck amphib ordered toward the Gulf in 10 days. The first, USS Tripoli, an America-class amphibious assault ship built to operate as a light aircraft carrier, cleared the Strait of Malacca on March 17th with 2,200 Marines of the 31st MEU and up to 20 F-35B stealth fighters aboard. Together, that is roughly 5,000 Marines, 6 amphibious warfare ships, and at least 24 fifth-generation jets converging on a body of water where Iran has already laid mines, launched anti-ship cruise missiles, and attacked commercial shipping with drone boats. The last time the US moved this much amphibious combat power into the Gulf, it was 2003, and the country it was invading did not have a functioning navy. Iran does, or it did 4 weeks ago. Everyone looking at this deployment is asking the same question. Is the US about to invade Iran? That is the wrong question. An invasion implies a land campaign, an occupation, supply lines stretching hundreds of miles into hostile terrain. None of the forces being deployed are designed for that. A Marine Expeditionary Unit, a self-contained rapid response force of roughly 2,000 Marines with its own air wing, ground combat element, and logistics, is not an invasion force. It is a seizure force. It is built to take a specific piece of ground, hold it, and make the cost of reclaiming it unbearable. The right question is not whether the US is invading Iran. The right question is, what is the engineering problem that requires 5,000 Marines to solve? And can 2 amphibious ready groups survive the physics of getting them there? If you'd rather understand the machine than just watch it fire, subscribe to Navy Story. To understand why this deployment matters, you have to understand what these ships would be sailing into. The Persian Gulf is not an ocean. It is a bathtub. At its widest, it stretches about 210 miles across, roughly the distance from Philadelphia to Boston. At the Strait of Hormuz, the only way in or out, the navigable shipping channel narrows to about 2 miles wide. 2 miles. A destroyer doing 30 knots crosses that in under 4 minutes. Every inch of that channel sits within range of Iranian coastal weapons on 3 sides. The Iranian mainland to the north, the island of Keshem to the east, and a chain of smaller Iranian-held islands dotting the strait itself. Iran spent 40 years fortifying this kill zone. Before Operation Epic Fury, the US military campaign against Iran that began on February 28th, those fortifications were staggering. Start with the missiles. The Noor, an Iranian-produced version of China's C-802 anti-ship cruise missile, flies at Mach 0.9, just under the speed of sound, and skims as low as 30 feet above the water in its terminal phase, making it nearly invisible to ship-based radar until the final seconds. Range, roughly 75 miles. Its big brother, the Ghadir, an extended-range derivative, pushes that envelope to nearly 200 miles, enough to reach a ship in the middle of the Gulf from a launcher hidden in the mountains of the Iranian coast. Then there is the Khalij Fars, a Persian language name meaning Persian Gulf, Iran's anti-ship ballistic missile. It drops near vertically onto its target from altitude, a trajectory that most shipboard defenses were never designed to intercept from below. Now add the boats. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, Iran's ideological naval force, separate from its conventional navy, operates an estimated 1,500 fast attack craft. These are not warships. They are fiberglass speedboats, some no bigger than a recreational fishing boat, carrying anti-ship missiles, rockets, and machine guns. The smallest ones cost less than a new pickup truck. The fastest, like the Hyder class, are claimed to reach speeds above 70 knots, over 80 miles per hour on water. Their doctrine is swarm tactics. 10, 20, sometimes 40 boats converging from every compass bearing simultaneously, each one a potential missile platform, each one generating a separate radar track that a ship's combat system must identify, prioritize, and engage. A Burt-class destroyer carries 96 cells in its vertical launch system, its VLS, the grid of missile tubes embedded in the ship's deck, 96. If 40 small boats attack and you spend 2 missiles per boat to guarantee a kill, you have spent 80 missiles. You have 16 cells left for everything else: air defense, land attack, ballistic missile intercept. The math is suffocating. Then there are the mines. Iran is estimated to have possessed over 6,000 sea mines before Epic Fury. Everything from simple contact mines, steel spheres studded with chemical fuses that have not changed fundamentally since the Civil War, to sophisticated influence mines that sit on the seabed and detonate when they sense the magnetic signature, acoustic noise, or pressure wave of a passing ship. The most dangerous model in the Iranian inventory is widely reported to be the EM-52, a Chinese-designed rocket-propelled rising mine. It sits dormant on the bottom, and when its sensors detect a target overhead, it launches a projectile upward at high speed into the hull. A ship cannot outrun it. A ship does not even know it is there. In 1988, during Operation Earnest Will, the U.S. campaigned to escort Kuwaiti oil tankers through the Persian Gulf, a single Iranian mine nearly sank the frigate USS Samuel B. Roberts. That mine cost roughly $1,500. The repairs cost $96 million. Iran learned that lesson. It has been stockpiling ever since. And in the first weeks of Epic Fury, Iran began laying them in the Strait of Hormuz, exactly as every war planner in the Pentagon expected. Add the tunnel complexes. On Keshem Island, a landmass the size of Long Island sitting directly in the strait, the IRGC built subterranean missile cities, underground networks carved into rock, reportedly housing anti-ship missiles, fast attack boats, and drone arsenals. US strikes have cratered the surface near tunnel entrances, but satellite imagery suggests the hardened underground chambers may have survived. You can bomb the door. The room behind it is another problem. That is what two amphibious-ready groups would be sailing into. And on paper, before Epic Fury began dismantling it, there was no answer. But paper does not float. Physics does. And the physics of this campaign have changed every variable in that equation. The first constraint is line of sight. Every radar, every missile seeker, every fire control system must solve the same fundamental problem: finding the target. Radar travels in straight lines. The Earth curves. At sea level, a radar antenna mounted 30 feet high, the height of a typical IRGC coastal launcher, can see to a horizon of roughly 7 miles. Beyond that, a ship is hidden behind the curvature of the planet. This is the radar horizon, and it is the single most important number in naval warfare. It means coastal launchers require external targeting, a drone, a spotter aircraft, a forward observer on an island, to see beyond their own horizon and guide their missiles to a target. Kill the eyes, and the missile becomes an expensive tube of aluminum pointed at empty ocean. For 3 weeks, Operation Epic Fury has been systematically killing those eyes. CENTCOM, U.S. Central Command, the military headquarters responsible for the Middle East, has struck over 5,500 Iranian military targets. Radar installations, command nodes, drone production facilities, the ballistic missile plant at Karaj, the Shahed drone factory at Esfahan, B-52 Stratofortress strategic bombers, 8-engine heavy bombers flying from RAF Fairford in the United Kingdom, and B-2 Spirit stealth bombers staging from Diego Garcia, a joint US-British base in the Indian Ocean, have been dropping GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs, the heaviest precision weapon in the American arsenal, each one weighing as much as a school bus, onto underground facilities near the strait. 5,000-pound class deep penetrator bombs have hit coastal missile sites directly. Iran's conventional navy has been effectively eliminated. Its air force, its air defense network, its missile production base, degraded to a degree that US officials describe as decimated. This is the trade-off the US accepted. 3 weeks of air campaign expenditure, missiles, fuel, aircraft hours, each day reportedly costing over $1 billion, traded for the degradation of the targeting network that makes Iranian anti-ship weapons lethal. The missiles may survive in some tunnels, but a missile without targeting data is a rocket aimed at God. Here is where the amphibious ready groups enter the sequence. If the objective is Karg Island and every indicator points there, the kill chain works backward from geography. Karg is a small coral island in the northern Persian Gulf, about 25 miles off the Iranian mainland coast. It is 5 miles long and roughly 2 miles wide, smaller than Manhattan's Central Park, but 90% of Iran's crude oil exports flow through its deep-water terminal. The water around Karg is naturally deep enough for the largest supertankers on Earth to dock directly, a geological accident that made the island irreplaceable. Iran cannot simply reroute its exports. No other point on its coastline offers the same depth. Destroying Karg's infrastructure capture permanently cuts Iran's revenue. Seizing it gives the US a lever to force the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which has been effectively closed to commercial traffic since early March. The operational sequence requires 4 conditions met in order. First, air supremacy over the northern Gulf. Without it, any ship within 300 miles of the Iranian coast is inside the engagement envelope of surviving Ghadr launchers. The combination of the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, centered on CVN-72, a Nimitz-class nuclear aircraft carrier, and its F/A-18E/F Super Hornet fighters, supplemented by Tripoli's F-35Bs, provides persistent combat air patrol and SEAD capability. SEAD, suppression of enemy air defenses, means hunting and destroying any radar that lights up. Every time an Iranian fire control radar activates to guide a missile, it broadcasts its own position. An AGM-88 GAAR-GM-ER, a missile designed to chase radar emissions back to their source, can be in the air within minutes. The radar operator faces a binary choice: turn the radar on and die, or leave it off and be blind. There is no third option. Second, mine clearance in the approach lanes. This is the slowest step and the one that defines the timeline. The US Navy has mine countermeasure ships, the LCS, or Littoral Combat Ship, variants equipped with mine hunting sonar and unmanned underwater vehicles. 2 of them, USS Tulsa and USS Santa Barbara, were recently spotted in Singapore. Their current positioning is telling. MQ-4C Triton, a high-altitude surveillance drone with a wingspan wider than a Boeing 737, has been flying reconnaissance loops over the northern Gulf and Karg itself, mapping the threat picture. Mine clearance cannot be rushed. A single missed mine can break a ship's keel. The approach to Karg must be sanitized meter by meter, and that takes days, not hours. Third, suppression of fast attack craft. This is where the kill chain connects air power to surface warfare. The IRGC's swarm boats operate from coastal harbors and island bases, including Keshem. But a swarm only works if it can mass. If the boats must transit open water to reach their target, they become visible to airborne sensors, ship radar, and helicopter gunships. AH-1Z Vipers, marine attack helicopters embarked on the amphibious ships, are specifically designed for this. A Viper carrying Hellfire missiles can engage a fast boat from 4 miles away, well outside the range of anything a speedboat carries. The operational concept is not to fight the swarm at the ship. It is to break the swarm before it forms, killing boats in their harbors, on their transit routes, and in small clusters before they can converge. CENTCOM has confirmed that warplanes and attack helicopters are already hunting and killing fast attack craft in the strait. Fourth, the assault itself. Karg sits 25 miles from the Iranian mainland. That is close. Close enough for artillery, close enough for short-range rockets, close enough for drone attacks from shore. But 25 miles of open water is also a moat. Iran has no amphibious capability to retake the island once it is held. The assault would most likely not be a beach landing from the well deck of an amphib. The geography does not favor that. It would be a vertical assault. MV-22B Ospreys, tilt-rotor aircraft that fly like airplanes but land like helicopters, carrying Marines directly from ship to objective at over 250 knots. They can reach Karg from a ship positioned 100 miles away in under 30 minutes. The amphibious ships never need to enter the most dangerous waters. They stand off, launch aircraft, and sustain the force by air. This is why you need 2 ARGs. One, Tripoli with the 31st MEU, provides the aviation punch, the F-35Bs for air cover, and the Ospreys for insertion. The other, Boxer with the 11th MEU, provides the follow-on force, the logistics, the ground combat element that digs in and holds. The dilemma for Iran is total. If it lights up coastal radars to target the ships, AARGM-ER kills the radars. If it launches fast boats, helicopters, and fighter jets destroy them in open water. If it fires surviving cruise missiles blind without radar guidance, the missiles fly ballistic. No terminal homing, no course correction, and the probability of hitting a moving ship drops to nearly 0. If it attempts to reinforce Karg after a seizure, it must cross 25 miles of open water against total US air supremacy. Option A is blindness. Option B is annihilation in transit. Iran's only remaining tool is the mine, silent, patient, already in the water. And that is why the mine countermeasures step dictates the entire timeline. Everything else can be accelerated, the mines cannot. Strip away the politics, the headlines, the speculation about ground invasions and regime change. What you are watching is a geometric problem. 2 amphibious-ready groups are not an invasion force. They are a key cut to fit a specific lock. A 5-mile island, 25 miles offshore, with deep water and no alternative, defended by a military whose eyes have been burned out over 3 weeks of sustained bombardment. The factory that built the missiles is rubble. The radars that guided them are silent. The Navy that patrolled the coast is on the bottom. What remains are mines and tunnels, and the 25-mile moat that cuts both ways. The ARGs exist to cross that moat. The air campaign existed to make the crossing survivable. Take one away, and the other fails. The missile is the receipt. The 3 weeks of airstrikes were the purchase. But 5,000 Marines are not an algorithm. They are 20-year-olds carrying 80 pounds of gear onto an Osprey that will fly them over mined water toward a coral island that has been bombed repeatedly for a week, 25 miles from a coastline where an unknown number of launchers may still be buried in rock. The fire control computer on a Viper helicopter can track a fast boat at 4 miles and calculate a firing solution in seconds. But a Marine crew chief has to lean into rotor wash at 200 feet and confirm visually that the target is hostile before the pilot pulls the trigger. The operational plan accounts for radar cross-sections and missile flight times and sortie generation rates, the number of combat missions a ship's air wing can launch per day. It does not account for the 22-year-old crew chief's hands shaking. It does not account for the lance corporal on the Osprey who has never heard a missile warning alarm outside of training. The physics gets them to the island. What happens on it is human. 13 American service members have already died in epic fury. Over 230 have been wounded. The next phase will not be fought from aircraft carriers at 400 miles. It will be fought at 25 miles, then 5 miles, then 0. The margin between engineering and casualty is measured in seconds and feet, not miles and hours. 4 weeks ago, the Strait of Hormuz was the most defended choke point on Earth. Fortified by 40 years of Iranian doctrine, thousands of mines, hundreds of coastal missiles, and 1,500 fast attack boats purpose-built to turn the Gulf into a graveyard for American capital ships. Today, 2 flat-bottomed amphibious ships loaded with Marines are steaming toward it. The contradiction resolves when you understand what happened in between. A 3-week air campaign that did not attempt to win the war from the sky, but instead systematically destroyed the conditions that made the surface war unwinnable. The airstrikes were not the main effort, they were the enabling effort. The main effort is loading onto Ospreys right now, somewhere in the Pacific, checking gear and rehearsing fast rope descents onto a coral island most of them had never heard of a month ago. This is Navy Story, engineering over headlines. Subscribe and we will see you in the next breakdown. You can flatten a country's air defenses from 30,000 feet. You can silence its radars from 100 miles away. But to take the island that funds the war, somebody has to land.